What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Another video means another dopamine high, because either buy something, feel something, and today we're back at it with another review. But for today's review, we are taking a look at a franchise that we have not yet seen on this channel, and that is the Warhammer 40K franchise. And I want to put it out there, unlike Halo and Star Wars, I don't know the 40K franchise as well. I'm not, super deep into the lore. I would love to be. It's something that I do, dive into every now and then. But I became a 40K fan about, I want to say, a year and a half ago, and there's a bunch of things I know in the lore that I've yet to learn, and I hope to learn these things soon enough. So please forgive me for how novice I may be while discussing the 40K franchise during this review. And I'll admit, I haven't really read any of the 40K books or have dabbled in the tabletop game, but I have played a handful of the video games such as Space Marine, Boltgun, Dark Tide, and Battle Sector, and I enjoy all of those games. I don't think I've really had a bad experience with those, and I enjoy the lore that I've discovered through those games. And so hopefully throughout the years, my knowledge of this franchise only becomes more vast and I become more well versed, so I sound more intelligent throughout these reviews if I do end up reviewing more Warhammer stuff on this channel. But with all that said, and getting back on track with today's video, today we'll be taking a look at JOYTOY's Blood Angel Intercessor. And before today's video, for the longest time, I thought McFarlane was the only company to make Warhammer 40K action figures, until my good friend Evan Productions bought one of JOYTOY's Intercessors from the Ultramarine chapter, and I was so impressed with the quality of that figure that I knew I had to get my own and get a review out on it. So here we are with today's video, and at any point during or after today's video you do realize you want to pick up this figure for yourself, you can get this figure for $24.99 off of the JOYTOY website. And if you're willing to spend a couple more bucks, you can get this figure for $28.99 off of Amazon. And there will be links in the description of the video, so you can easily access those links and get this figure for yourself if you are so interested. But with all that said, I think I've done enough yapping. Let's move on with the video. So starting off with the packaging, and I really like this sleek look and how it somewhat mimics the box design for some of the minis that we see. On the side we have the Warhammer logo and the title of the figure. On the top we just have the Warhammer 40K logo, and then on this side we just have a bunch of words that don't really matter, so don't worry about that. On the back we have some photos of the figure and a brief description of everything that is included. And unlike most things that we review on this channel, there's no transparent shell to see if everything is included, but don't worry, everything is included. So starting off with the articulation in the head region, you can rotate the head 360 degrees, which is always nice to see on these figures. And then when it comes to looking up and down, you can get decent range, which I'm very happy to see. And then when it comes to the side to side head tilt, also got that decent range, which should all allow for a nice spherical motion, which I really love to see, which means overall I am very happy with the head articulation on this figure. And then when it comes to the arm articulation, you can rotate the arms 360 degrees up and over, which is always nice to see. When it comes to bringing up the arms, you can't really because of the giant shoulder plate, but there is some motion there nonetheless, which means opening up the arms is still going to be a little finicky as well because of that giant shoulder plate, but there is motion there. But when you bring the arm forward, there is this really nice shoulder joint that allows you to extend it further than you normally would, which again, very nice to see. And when it comes to rotating the elbow and forearm, you can rotate it 360 degrees, which is nice to see. And then moving down from that to the elbow bend, you can get a really good elbow bend. You can pretty much have him do a near shoulder tap, which is really impressive seeing how bulky his armor is, but we love to see that. And then moving away from the elbow bend and onto the hand, you can rotate that 360 degrees and bend the wrist pretty much however you please, which again is great to see on this figure. And overall I am very happy with the arm articulation on this figure. And then when it comes to the torso, you can rotate that 360 degrees, which is always nice to see. And then when it comes to the back and forth motion, there is incredible range on this figure. This is probably the best back and forth motion in the torso that I've seen on this channel, so very happy to see that. And then of course we can get a decent side to side, you know, movement, which overall allows for this nice spherical range of motion in the torso. And this is probably some of the best torso articulation I've seen out of anything that I've reviewed on this channel, which really says a lot. And finally, for the leg articulation, when it comes to rotating the leg up and over, you can't get that full 360 spin, but the range is still really good nonetheless. But you can rotate the leg 360 degrees from this angle, so it is good to see that there. When it comes to the split, you can't get a full split out of this figure, but the range is still really good, enough so you can still get a variety of action poses out of this figure. Then you can bring the legs up so you can have them sit in a chair off the ledge of a cliff. And then when it comes to the knee bend for our Space Marine, the knee bend is really good. You can have them do an almost complete butt kick, which means you can display this figure in a bunch of running poses and action poses. And then when it comes to the foot area of the Space Marine, I would normally complain that you can't rotate the foot 360 degrees, but seeing how big and bulky the armor is towards the bottom of the Space Marine, I don't think balancing or keeping this figure up is going to be an issue because of how heavy the feet or the boots of the Space Marine are. But you despite not being able to get that full 360 rotation, you can still position the boot in a variety of ways, and I think I can say with confidence I am happy with the leg articulation on this figure. So I think it's safe to say that I'm very happy with the articulation on this figure, especially for a figure that has such, you know, thick and bulky armor. I don't have any complaints that I can think of. I mean, I would be like, oh, but the opening and bringing up of the arms is hindered by the shoulder plates, but you see how big those shoulder plates are, and, you know, you tell me you're surprised that the opening and bringing up of the arms was somewhat limited. I mean, I saw that coming from a mile away, but there is still range in those areas nonetheless, so it's not even the end of the world. But overall, again, for such a, you know, character with big and bulky armor, the articulation on this figure is great. Literally, it's some of the best articulation I think I've seen on this channel. So in the short time that I've reviewed figures, one thing that I've come to love is when the company throws in variety, when it allows for customization of a figure. Basically, it gives you multiple options, multiple ways that you could potentially display your figure, and that is something we see here with this figure. Around the belt of the Space Marine, there's a variety of pouches and accessories, and you can actually, you know, swap those and rearrange them however you want, and I just really enjoy that. And let's say you own multiple Space Marines, then that is even more, you know, possible configurations where you could possibly have a Space Marine with, you know, all pouches. You could have them with, you know, a bunch of holsters. You know, just pretty much the sky is the limit as long as you have the right amount of figures to, you know, make these configurations and all that. But again, I thought this was a really cool thing that JOYTOY decided to include, and I will start collecting more of these figures, and I will definitely be making loadouts for certain Space Marines. And this figure also comes with another pouch option for a holster with a pistol in it, so there's even more variety already included with this figure. And up next we have the jetpack that we see on almost every Space Marine, and this is just attached through a peg and peg hole system. Very simple, we've seen it all before. So you just attach it to the back, and I can guarantee you that that is not coming off. It is probably one of the most secure peg and peg hole systems I've ever seen on a figure, and it comes off very easily as well. So I don't know what black magic JOYTOY has, but it works. And we do have some swappable hands included as well, a total of 6. We have 2 trigger finger hands, 2 holding hands, and 2 closed fists. And then moving over to the weapons and starting off strong with the Chainsword. And to be completely transparent with y'all, I tried figuring out what variation, what pattern of Chainsword this is, and I couldn't find anything. The only thing that came even close was a Chainsword that I couldn't even get the name of because it was some 3D print file, but there weren't many Chainswords that had the similar silhouette to this one. I don't know if JOYTOY took some creative liberties with the handguard and the grip of the Chainsword, but I couldn't find anything similar to it except for that one 3D print file that didn't want to specify on what version of Chainsword this was, except for the fact that Space Marines use it. So again, if any of y'all know what variation or pattern of Chainsword this is, it would be greatly appreciated, because it was absolutely driving me crazy trying to figure it out. But focusing on the actual toy, I'm very happy with how JOYTOY handled this accessory's visual presentation. It looks very lively with the color variation, and the metal looks like metal, the gold looks like gold, the sculpt work looks amazing. I don't have any complaints about this weapon at all. And then up next we have the bolt pistol. Now I don't know which variation or pattern of bolt pistol this is exactly, because it looks like a mix between the heavy bolt pistol and the Ultima bolt pistol, specifically the Firehawk one. So I don't know what the exact answer is, but if someone does know the answer, please let me know. And then focusing on the actual toy itself, again, I'm very happy with the visual presentation that JOYTOY has given us here. When it comes to the paint job, the metal looks like metal, and then the black dark parts, I don't know if that is polymer or steel. I don't think polymer would be able to withstand the recoil of a bolt gun, so I'm going to assume it's some sort of steel, but it looks good nonetheless. I'll admit that the color variation isn't as extensive here as we saw on the Chainsword, but again, very happy with the paint job. And then when it comes to the sculpt work, I'm very happy with what we got. Very cool to see that there's a mag eject, there's a safety, the ejection port is there. Basically everything that you would see on a firearm is on this. And overall, just, again, very happy with the visual presentation given for this accessory. And because I'm a fucking dipshit, I forgot to include the fact that the magazine comes out of the handgun and you can display it, you know, without the magazine, and fuck! And last and certainly not least, we have the bolt rifle, and I'm actually really proud of myself. I was actually able to find out which variation / pattern of bolt rifle this is on my own. So it is the Mark II Cal pattern bolt rifle in the auto bolt rifle configuration with a underbarrel auxiliary grenade launcher. And I don't know why, I'm just very proud I was able to figure that shit out without, you know, seeking help from someone else. But focusing on the toy, JOYTOY did such a great job with the visual presentation of this weapon. Everything looks like what it's supposed to be made out of, and what I mean by that is the metal looks like metal, the brass looks like brass, the gold looks like gold, the leather looks like leather, and so on and so forth. Just very happy with the paint job of this weapon. And then again, the sculpt work looks great with all the grooves on top and on the bottom of the gun. All the parts, you know, that would be on a firearm are there. Just everything about this accessory looks great. You can see with your own eyes, obviously. Just very happy with the visual presentation of this accessory. So going over this figure's visual presentation, there is a lot to appreciate with what JOYTOY did here. They absolutely knocked it out of the park, starting off with the sculpt work. Because this is a figure that is wearing a full suit of armor, JOYTOY was able to get down all the line work, all the details, the layering of the armor. They got the undersuit, and even the crest on the chest plate looks really good with the feathers layering each other. There's so much to appreciate here, and JOYTOY just absolutely brought this figure to life when it came to the sculpt work, making it look as accurate as possible. But what really complements the sculpt work on this figure is the paint job, and obviously the paint job has its own role, let alone complementing the sculpt work. But JOYTOY did a really good job at making this figure look clean while still allowing for the finer and smaller details to really pop out and shine. And what I mean by this is, if you look at this figure, 95% of his armor is made up of this really clean, bright red that I really do like. But then JOYTOY went back and they went into the smaller, finer details, the pieces of line work that, you know, you wouldn't really notice or wouldn't notice as quickly than some other pieces on this guy, and they filled it in with either a darker shade of red or black to really allow them to pop out on this guy's armor. And it's just something I appreciate, especially as someone who frequently reviews Jazzwares' Halo the Spartan collection figures, and Jazzwares for some reason does not like filling in those smaller, finer details with darker colors. And that's why if you watch any of my reviews, I always ask that Jazzwares adds some kind of grit kit or black wash or panel lining to their figures, but here with JOYTOY, I'm not going to be making that request because they took it upon themselves to allow for these smaller, finer details to really pop out, and I just adore it. So yeah, I think you could say that I'm very happy with the visual presentation of this figure. It's great to see a company, you know, actually show those smaller and finer details some love and attention. I'm not saying that, you know, it's only JOYTOY that does that, but there are certainly some companies that, you know, do come to mind when it comes to just leaving out those smaller and finer details, and it really sucks to see. So I am happy to see a company that does show, you know, those things, those areas, some love. So overall, yeah, no, JOYTOY knocked it out of the park. So with that all now out of the way, let's put this bad boy into scale with some size comparisons. Starting off with NECA's Aliens Xenomorph Warrior, NECA's Predator 2 Elder Predator aka Greyback, Hasbro Star Wars The Black Series Phase 2 Clone Trooper, Jazzwares' Halo The Spartan Collection Halo 3 Master Chief, Jazzwares' The World of Halo Infinite Master Chief, and finally we have McFarlane's The Doomslayer. So here we are at the thoughts and discussion segment of the video, aka the turntable segment of the video, pretty much where I go over what I like, dislike, pros, cons, strengths, and weaknesses, that kind of jazz, give my general thoughts and opinions, and give y'all something to really bounce off of and go down the comment section below and get a conversation started. And if you do choose to get a conversation started in the comment section below, I'll most likely reply to y'all's comments because I obviously like talking about this stuff, and because I don't like dwelling on the negative any longer than I have to, I'm gonna go over the sour stuff first. And honestly, only one thing does come to mind, and it's not even a terrible thing. Like it's something I wish they did with the figure, and because they didn't do it doesn't mean the figure is ruined. It's just, again, something I wish they did, and that is I wish they made it so you could attach the chainsword to the hip or the back or wherever, just somewheres on our Space Marine, because I am a sucker for figures that can carry all of their accessories all at once. Yes, that is more of a personal subjective thing, but I just love to see it, and that is technically possible with this figure, but only if he has the bolt pistol in one hand, the chainsword in the other, and then he has to wear the bolt rifle on his back. But let's be real, a good portion of us, including myself, are going to display this figure with the bolt rifle. If I had more Blood Angel Space Marines, then maybe it wouldn't be as big of an issue, because then I would probably display one with the chainsword and the other with a bolt rifle. But seeing that I only have one, I'm going to have him holding the bolt rifle. And I just feel like him holding the bolt rifle with a chainsword on his hip really just added and made him look really cool on display. But again, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't ruin the figure. It's just something I personally would have liked to see from this figure. And for those wondering, oh, then why aren't you bringing up the bolt pistol? Well, that's because there is a holster attachment that has a pistol in it. So that is technically already covered, so I'm not too worried about that. Yes, it looks a little smaller than the bolt pistol, but it's still a weapon that he has on him. And then getting into the positives, and you can honestly say that this entire video has just been a positives segment about this figure. I don't know if this is the first time I'm dealing with JOYTOY, and I just haven't been desensitized to this level of quality yet, but there's just so much to enjoy about this figure. The articulation is great. There's a wide range of, you know, motion that you can get out of each part of the body, and then the visual presentation, whether it's the accessories or the figure, is highly detailed. They get down every little thing that they can, and they make sure that all those tiny details that you wouldn't even really recognize at first do pop out and, you know, are there for you to, you know, take in and enjoy. And the accessory selection is phenomenal. You get a handful of weapons, you get a bunch of swappable hands, the pouches are swappable and interchangeable, so you can have, you know, your guy look different one day and then different the next, and it's just phenomenal the level of care that they put into this figure just when it comes to visuals, articulation, and playability. It's just absolutely phenomenal, and I just can't stop glazing this figure, honestly. So rose tinted lenses or not, I think objectively we can all agree that this figure offers a lot for a figure, especially for a figure that is only $25. But to be completely transparent, this is the cheapest figure out of all of JOYTOY's Warhammer figures. Even the non-Space Marine figures are more expensive than this guy. I don't know if this is because this is just your generic Space Marine, so they're willing to make it the cheapest figure, so it's kind of like a gateway drug into the JOYTOY, you know, line of 40K figures. But still, $25 is not bad at all. This actually reminds me of how NECA gives us their figures with the, you know, the swappable hands, a bunch of accessories, great articulation, great visuals. Granted, NECA figures are larger and a little more expensive, but I still justify NECA's prices because the amount of detail and size and scaling is phenomenal. But this figure, again, $25 is very hard to beat for everything it offers. So at the end of the day, there is a lot to love about this figure. It has great range of articulation, an amazing visual presentation for the figure and accessories, a lot of accessories to work with, and overall this figure is amazing for display and playability, and all for $25. So I do highly recommend picking up this figure if you are considering it. If not, and you're looking to get into 40K figures, this is a great start. Granted, some of the other figures by JOYTOY are a little more pricey, but again, for $25, this is an amazing price for everything that you do get. And for anyone who already has this figure, please tell me how you feel about the figure. Do you like this figure? Do you dislike this figure? And if you do dislike this figure, what do you dislike? Because I would like to get a conversation started, because again, obviously I love talking about this stuff. And if you did enjoy today's video, a like and a subscription would be greatly appreciated. If you don't want to comment, I get it. Moving your fingers is a lot of effort, but if you do want to bounce off anything I did say throughout the video, you're more than welcome to. And again, for the 100th bajillionth time, I will respond to y'all's stuff because I obviously like talking about this stuff. And if you want to see more content like this, like I said earlier, this is my first 40K review on the channel, but I do review stuff from the Halo franchise, Star Wars franchise, and the Alien/Predator franchise. But who knows, if you really did enjoy today's video, maybe I'll start making more 40K content. But with all that said, please have a nice day and stay hydrated. It is important.